Hello, Crystal from KCS, the organisation Queen, and today I have with me Michelle from BRANDiT, who is a marketing extraordinaire, and she's also actually just become the what was your role?
Oh, I'm the Queensland Chair for the Australian Marketing Institute, which is the peak industry body for marketers.
So if you want the person to talk to about marketing, Michelle's definitely it. And today we wanted to have a chat about how you and your business can be ready to jump the gun when we're actually let loose out of all of our restrictions that are currently put on place, not only for us in our personal worlds, but also for our businesses. And so Michelle has kind of three top areas that she wants to chat about. The first is strategy, the second is branding, the third is channels and kind of the tools that you can start putting into place. And once you follow all of these things, you'll be in a really good position to jump the gun and be ready to launch your business again, whenever that might be. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to jump straight in, or do you want to give a bit of an intro yourself?
Wasn't prepared for that one. So as you said, I've got my own branding and strategy agency. We focus on the beginning, because if you don't do the beginning properly, the rest of it just doesn't work. So, I'm constantly being told by people, oh, nobody's connecting, or nobody's, clicking on our links, or nobody's doing these things. And, why isn't Facebook working? And, these single channel kind of conversations. And, marketing ultimately is having a whole bunch of ducks in a row. You can't do one letterbox drop and it turn you into a multi-million-dollar business. You have to do things consistently over time. So think of, I talk about SEO. SEO is a long boil. Marketing full stop is a long boil. You're not going to get those quick, immediate reactions and changes unless you've gone and done a plethora of work at the beginning of it about building a brand, getting people to engage and want to be part of your team. The simple example of Apple turning all their people into a cult. Brilliant, because they're never going to leave. Samsung had to pay billions and billions of dollars to get the same amount of people to walk through the door, because they've never been able to work on that emotional connection that happens in that branding process. So I think ultimately when we're talking about how do we get out of the gate first, it's going back to basics. It's doing all the things that you haven't had time to do when your business has been busy, and going back and saying, okay, look at the strategy. So what are my niches? Who am I talking to, and are they talking back to me in the way that I'm expecting? One of the most common things that I see out there is, I read a website or I read some brochures or documentation when we do a brand audit, and I'm like, I don't get who you're talking to. And so talking to everybody is effectively talking to nobody. So, ultimately, who are your niches? And because you're probably going to have a really small budget to get started, or no budget, know who they are. So you might have 10 categories or 10 niches that you think, are great for my product or my service. And then I would be thinking about, well, which three am I going to focus on when I get back out on the gate? And so when we get down into the channel side of things, how do I talk to those three markets? Or even just start with the one, in honesty. Pick one, become really good at it, and then start doing the next one, and then start doing the next one. So let's pretend I just want to do people in healthcare. So for me and my business, I'd potentially just go and do, identify health, and then maybe look at, are there sub areas in health that I actually have a skill set or experience that I can then promote to that. Then I need to go and look at how do I communicate with those people? So who are the buyers that I'm actually out there trying to connect with? Because if I've gone and look at my material and everything's about me selling my products to you rather than trying to create an emotional connection with that person so they understand, I really need that, I want that today. And that's the difference between marketing and selling, really. So a lot of businesses are out there trying to push the sales side, but they're not really thinking about what's the marketing side. So yeah, go back to basics on strategy, and just kind of look at how can I refine it, and what are my key areas that I really want to focus in on. Because everybody's going to be out there scattergunning, because we're all going to be conscious and nervous that we have to get more sales and we have to get them quickly. So if you can have a really kind of like blinker view of the world, you're going to have a laser gun kind of approach to kind of targeting in and getting where you need to go.
Just on that, something that I've heard recently is that when you are trying to force your sales. That comes across when you're doing videos or live videos, when you're writing posts. Do you have any tips on how to make sure that even though you are anxious and stressed and needing those sales, to not come across like that?
Yeah, number one, don't do them.
That's a start.
Off topic, but this whole homeschooling thing, there's a lot of parents out there that are struggling with this homeschooling issue. And a psychologist that I know said to me the other day, unless you can find the time to be calm, create a nice, stress-free environment for your children, there is absolutely no purpose in you trying to get them to do the work. So, and it's exactly the same in our business. If we can't kind of bring it down to what am I actually here to do? So if you're out there just trying to get work and freaking out, that's never going to work. So that's why it comes back to the strategy, the branding, and the channels we're going to talk about, because then that gives you the focus and the confidence about what you should be talking about. So, think about, so let's go into branding. So once you've figured out what the niches are that you want to talk to or target into, who are the people you need to talk to and what's their style. So for instance, you might have a high tech level, or you might have somebody that has no tech skills, or somebody that likes to shop a lot, all those kind of things. Like, how do you talk to them individually? So then you come into your branding side of things. And this is where the voice is really important, because most people haven't taken the time to figure out their brand architecture. And that's a series or a process that you can go through that's really easy. And it just helps you identify the tone that you and your business want to stand for. But what is it that you ultimately want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be the Sage, which is an all-knowing kind of company where people go to you for wisdom and knowledge and an expectation of skill set? Do you want to be the joker and have a bit of fun? Do you want to be the hero that's out there trying to help you achieve through life through their process or purpose of product? So, there's 12 archetypes, and clearly just identifying which one you are can really help you with how do you then communicate to your market. Because you know who your market is. Now you know how do I talk to them really effectively. And then just making sure that any staff you have, or even just yourself, really owns that architecture, so that you can say, I'm like a rebel creator, so I'm a little bit rebellious. That's why my branding is BRANDiT Rocks, because I want to have fun. I want to be a little bit different. I'm not here to do the traditional, conventional stuff. And I'm okay with stating my mind. Like, if I was really passive, nobody would believe me, because then when they meet me, I have opinions and I want to help you. So you have to make sure that your architecture and your business match up. And so quite often with small business owners, we have the conversation around, well, does it ultimately become about my personal persona, brand persona, rather than the business persona? And sometimes it is, but often it's not. It's just still owning what you want to do and what you want to be, and making sure that every part of your business then reflects back to that. So that's why it's important to have a style guide or something like that, where you can kind of outline what that process is, what that means, what the tone looks like. And then you can go on. So once you understand that, then you can go and look at anything you've ever created from a marketing perspective, whether it's your website, brochures, even just your email signature. There's so many free kind of things that we do that we use repeatedly that we're just not taking advantage of it. Put something extra at your footer, like, sale this week, or, buy two, get one free, or whatever your offer is. Or even just if you're working on perception-based, making people realize that you're the best in the industry. You've got an award, you've got something, put that down in the bottom. It helps with the perception side of branding. So
I have a question. Those voices that you talked about, to have those as a resource on your website?
No, it's normally something that I do in workshops with people, or we do it. So I'm usually on a Tuesday, I give my time to a government grant for ASBAS, and people can book in a session. So it's basically 80% government subsidised, and they can get an hour or 2 hour one-on-one consultation. So quite often with people, I run through that whole process. But often I spend a day with big businesses doing. We try to just get the architecture and give you some kind of like wheels for your car, and then you can keep rolling with it that way.
Yeah, perfect. Program it once we're finished with the session.
Perfect. So when it comes to branding, once you understand what your brand architecture is, there's three main elements that I always talk about kind of consist of in branding. consistency, perception, and staff. And let's be honest, all three of those are non-marketing activity, like, external marketing activity, advertising type of scenarios. These are all things that business owners can be doing now and getting an understanding of how that can impact their business moving forward.
So just
if you want to create a brand,
was it consistency?
Perception
And staff.
Okay. So with consistency, it's just, using tools or anything to make sure your email, your letterhead, your website, your business cards, your uniforms, anything that you put your logo on is consistent. Making sure you understand what the color codes are that somebody put into a logo 10 years ago and how that can then be integrated through. It's nice and simple. Once it's done, and everybody's got everything they need. Perception is the hardest one, and I think it comes back to your point about if I'm doing a video and I'm getting stressed, the perception is you're desperate. Everybody is going to try to get an advantage out of you, and they're going to try to screw you. So I'm busier than ever. I can't believe, oh my God,
fake it till you make it.
Pretty much. Because if you put positivity out to the world and you put that you're a solution-based company or a solutions-based human, people are drawn to that because we all want to be with people that are positive. So if you constantly, I walked past somebody at the shopping centre the other day and she was like, oh, life's so horrible, and I could hear the conversation and I just kind of giggled because this whole survival program that we're in now is mindset. And we're all going through probably one of the worst periods of our lives, but the fact is we still have to get out of bed every day. We still have to plan for our business on the other side of this. And a lot of people are going to fall into a huddle. So one of the major ways you can get a competitive advantage is still by turning up and being present. And writing a list every day of what's 2 marketing things I can do every day.
Yeah.
So with perception, we've kind of just gone into that, but there are so many levels of perception. So, it's one of the things you can't control the most. Good.
Julie has just put a comment up, and it is definitely all about perception. And it started with saying that she had she changed a word in her marketing. And she said she was using butterfly or the transformational language instead of speaking to where her niche market is at. So she was calling them visionaries, but they don't see themselves as visionaries. So she did a little bit of research and actually found out that they call themselves dreamers. So she shifted her mindset and that one word, and those people, that's how they see themselves. So they're now connecting with her brand and that perception of her brand even more and much better.
So I come across so many clients that are like, oh, our website isn't converting and, we're not getting anywhere like we should be. And then you go and read it, and then you go and do your SEO report, which is search engine optimization, which is just a way of looking for what the main keywords are out there that people are searching for. And what the report says versus the keywords in their website are nothing alike. Because we're not doing the research in the beginning to say, okay, who are the people that are looking for my product and what is their brain typing into Google? If you're on a phone, like what are their word combinations as well? So that's something to think about as well is what would they be asking if I'm typing it in, and what would they be asking if they, hey, Google, go find me, or hey, Siri, go find me, whatever. You've got to make sure both of those words are in your websites or any of the places that you're putting information. But Julie and I've talked about things like this before. It's all about figuring out who the people you're talking to. And we've changed Julie's niches and we've done different things like that. And she's a great study because she goes and she does them and then they work or they don't work and then we change them. You don't just start a business one day and put your logo out there and say, okay, marketing's done.
And I think the key thing that you just said was that marketing, like systems, you don't just create your marketing and then leave it. It's something that you constantly have to be reviewing and testing and changing and updating depending on what's going on in the industry or the niche market that you're trying to attach to. And the same with systems. You can't just set your systems and leave it. If your business changes or that process changes or a new person comes on board, you need to be continually reviewing those things.
And especially since like the way that everything's so digital now, it's completely changed the way that we engage. So it's changed the speed that I have to have things done. So like when I started like 20 something years ago, we were just doing websites, and they were online brochures. Like, we take out big 20, 30-page brochures that we had and we put them on a website. And then to see the evolution of that in the last 20 years to now AI and everything else is just crazy. But being able to go into, to understand that, just like the news cycle, the thing you saw on, Sunrise this morning, you're not going to probably see again. And even if you're searching for it, you're probably not going to, because there's so much more information coming out. So that's why I say, if you're going to go onto some of these portals, be committed to them, or just don't get on them at all, because then at least that way they can find you in the right way.
Yeah.
And staff. This one is probably one of the most important ones for me for branding anytime. But in this whole COVID situation, I just want to point out, the way you treat your staff now is going to have long-term effects on how they see, react, and talk to others about your brand. And yes, you might be the one making the decision, but they're going to talk about your business. So be really conscious of that. I worked at a really big company many years ago, and 30 years after mass redundancies, the old guys were still talking about them, and it created a culture in that business that we couldn't get out of until these guys started retiring. And it was really hard. We had to break up the silos and, a lot of other stuff. But ultimately, the way you treat them now is going to have a long-term impact on your ability to get started out there.
Yes. And just on a side note, what I've seen happening quite a lot is businesses using this time to, I'll use the word cull, those staff that may not be a good culture or brand fit with the business, and for whatever reason you needed them or couldn't ask them to leave. Now's a really great chance to do that.
Oh, I heard of a major multi that is doing something very similar and hiring on the other side of it, and I think it's just completely unethical.
Just be really careful. If anyone that's watching or rewatches the video, if you do find yourself in that situation, be very, very careful with how you are letting your people go and standing them down. If you need any advice, we do have a partnership with Effective Workplace Solutions that are a HR lawyer, just on a side note. So I can definitely point you in that direction. You don't want to be just, willy-nilly, well, you're done, see you later. So just be really careful with that.
Yes, exactly. So whether you're the employee or the employer, get your facts right before you go and make the decision. Opportunities are opportunities, but that's a side note.
And your staff are a really important part of your branding. They're not talking in your niche voice if they're not, presenting themselves in the way that they need to be to match or align with your brand. You need to make some big changes.
There's a book that I love called The No Asshole Rule. I swear everybody should read it. And it's this idea of culture and how you can have your top salesperson who could be making multi-million-dollar budgets for you, but if they're a bit of a asshole, then the impact that has on your culture is significant. And then they have a whole bunch of examples where they took out the top person, and they were always so scared that they were going to lose millions. But everybody underneath them was so happy and excited and, changed the culture, and then everybody moved up and took on extra work, or, then they replaced it with a person that was a better person. And it really did have, but those companies never regretted it. And we get in these structures where we think, we have to be that person because of their culture, but it's not. We just need to kind of go back to what is the core of my business. So what is my brand architecture? How does that impact my staff? And how does that impact me at the core? So a lot of time business strategy and marketing go hand in hand. It's not just about pretty stuff. So then ultimately anything with branding, it's my last comment, is you want to create an emotional connection with your market. If they are just reading documents or information and they're not getting some sense of trust, reliability, purpose, whatever your archetype is, you're probably missing the mark, which means that somebody else could be doing it better. So I just encourage everybody to just go do a review. So there's a process called a touch point analysis. It's very simple. You don't need any training. You literally need a piece of paper. So get a piece of paper, write down what happens, what are the ways that people can get to you, Facebook ads, Google, your website, phone calls. But then what's the process once they come into my business? Do they get greeted by somebody? Do they get a thank you? And what's the process? And at every process, if you say what you do, and then have a think about what could I do better? Is there something in this process that we could do better? Is there a system or an automation that we can put in here, or a template to thank them, or just communicate? Because sometimes the best relationships, customer-client relationships, are ones where the client always is in control of the communication. So whether that's thank yous, or this is, I love the when we get a package and everything gets tracked now with Australia Post. It completely changes the whole retail process, and it's exciting because your parcel's coming. So it's getting all of us excited about what's happening for us. And if you can just make tiny little changes along the way, like what we said before about your email signature, if you can put a little bit of quirk or fun or interest into your email signature, that's why putting a photo of yourself, and nobody ever wants to put a photo of themselves on, but it creates the psychology sitting behind it is that the people see you, they start to know, like, and trust you, even though they've never met you. And it helps build a relationship, which gives you that emotional connection. Tick. You buy from people you like. So how do you go and become liked?
So question for you, do you encourage businesses to also put staff, if they've got an email signature, to put their photo on as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants to. Like, let's just put that out there. Everybody's going to say, I don't want to do that. It works. It really does. And it's the same with that's why I've loved this transition to online videos. Is because I do a lot on Zoom, and I like to see your eyeballs because I can see your reaction, I can see what you're saying, and I can get a better idea of whether you're liking what I'm saying or whether you just think it's whatever, or you're not even understanding actually, because I do talk fast. So it's really important. So then if you can do the same thing for your staff and take down those barriers, absolutely. And give them a personality. In my office, I call Demi Mini-Me, and everybody knows her as a Mini-Me, and it's kind of like an joke. So if you can kind of create a way to personalise your staff to your consumer base, it's
personalising those roles too. I think that's something that we did when we rebranded a couple of years ago. Instead of saying, the director or the project manager, Yvonne, who is the project manager, is now the systems chauffeur. And I'm the organisation queen, and we have code whisperers, and like our roles are very branded with our voice.
I think I think there's two levels here. One is your corporate levels, where I think they're really important because then they give you an understanding of where in the chain and the structure you need to be. The taking of those words and then using them in small to medium business is personally a bugbear of mine, because I'm like, there is processes that need to happen before you can get those titles. Like somebody saying they're a consultant, there's a process to become a consultant. We don't just get to be consultants one day. It's really hard. It's usually 20 years plus, all that kind of stuff. But in the small end, or in a business where it's more retail based, have fun. Do what you need to do to create engagement, because if they're going to remember you because of it, then it's worked.
Yes. So shall we move on?
Let's go to channels. So ultimately, once you know who you're talking to, you know what they want, you've decided how you're going to talk to them, and then you've got to figure out where you want to talk to them. I want to re-emphasize, picking one channel and doing it once will not get you results. It is better to do nothing than to go and waste money. I've got a chart great chart that I found years ago, and it talks about the increase in digital marketing spend on Facebook and Google, and what it shows is a steep incline right at the end there. So everybody looks at that and says, oh, this is amazing, everybody so much money's being made. Well, no, what it's done is the barrier to entry has been removed, so I can go and create my own Google ads, and I can go and create my own Facebook ads as a small business consumer, and I can potentially throw $100-200 at it and give it a crack. Well, you go and do that with 1 million customers, and the only ones laughing are Facebook and Google, because as anybody that does these ads constantly, there's a lot that goes into them, and it's in Google and Facebook's best interest for you to have a crack, because you're just going to throw your money at it. They'll get your money, and
they don't care about that.
No. It's not in their business. Like, they've got those customer care areas that can help you. But I've seen some of those structures at the back end when we've taken over accounts, and they're in their best interest. They'll help you create them and fix them and do stuff, but they're not going to give you all the tips that people that are just us do it all day are focused in on. So, if you've got a really small budget, I would look at what are the internal marketing things that I can do so they're not going to cost me. Go and set up an email newsletter system, like a MailChimp or Active Campaigns or Klaviyo. Go and set one of them up and start communicating with your clients. If you're not capturing them now, put in a process so that you don't ever sit in this situation again where you don't have your client's email address and you can't communicate with them on text or email. Especially in retail, like so many people I know in retail, they haven't been capturing stuff for years, and now they're sitting here going, how do we talk to them? They can't come to my stock anymore. We can't do anything. So learn from those lessons, and now while we're in this period, if you do have downtime, go and set one up. You can have a free MailChimp account, and then you can just add them in. And, look at your email signature. Go and get something like a Canva account. Canva's free these days. I don't think it will be long. Crello, there's lots of other versions of them out there. Go and set your email signature up. So if you just want to know a traditional size for an email signature, just go Google, what size should my email signature be? It's usually 600 by 200 pixels, and then you can pop that into Canva. They've even got templates and everything sitting there, so it's really easy. So go and learn and play in Canva and create a whole bunch of templates that you can use long term.
Yeah, in this day and age, from a marketing point of view, there's really no excuse for not being able to create professional assets, like your newsletters, your email signatures and that sort of stuff, because programs like Canva do exist. Now, that obviously doesn't replace, professional digital graphic designers and marketing people like yourself. But if you do have that small budget and that minimal time, the templates are there. So you can get something in place.
Look, I've seen some really terrible ones that have been done on Canva. So, design skill is design skill. But if you're confident and you feel like, look around your house. Do I have a flair for interior design? Do I have an eye for colours? Sure, then go jump on, because you're probably going to do a great job.
The other thing that I find works really well, Google, top 10 email signatures, for example, and find one that looks really nice and you like, and then just copy that.
Done that before?
You're probably like, no, don't do that. And I'm like, that works really well in my world.
I remember years ago when I was updating my CV, and I wanted templates, so I just went and Googled best 50 templates for CVs, and then I found one that I liked, and then I took it into Canva and I copied it all over because I like the format. So you don't want to be a follower in marketing, so you don't want to go and copy a competitor's style, because then they're called Me-Too brands, and the one that got there first is always then going to be the first one, even though you were there first. So that comes into the perception side of things as well, so be careful with that. But Google what's happening around the world. Go find competitors of yours, if you're Australian based, and see what they're doing in the US, see what they're doing in the UK. Look at their styles and kind of get information and pull it through. The big one is at the time to go and do the research that we don't have the time, that small guys don't have the time and effort to do. So learn from them.
More on channels?
So when we understand the branding side of it, so who are we trying to speak to and where are they? Go and look for community groups in Facebook that might need your product. And don't go in there and start throwing in links and stuff, but become an expert in that area. So then people can then refer you in. All these things that you've never had time to do.
Educate.
Educate the market. A lot of people put a lot of focus on socials, and it just depends on your market, which one you're in. But if you identify that social media is not going to be a key driver for you, then just don't do it. Don't focus any attention. Put up a few projects or a few things there so that people can see it, and use it as a way to drive them back to your website.
And do you say, max 3 different channels?
Oh, this is a long debated one.
Is it? Well, we don't have that much time. So if you can't answer that question easily, then I guess it would be coming back to what you were just saying, is that you've really got to look at what does your business need and where does your niche hang out. And if that's on more than 3 channels, then I guess you would be using more than 3 channels. If that's only on one channel, then you're only using one channel.
Yeah. Ideally, you would, if you're doing each channel, because they're completely different channels, you would want to be changing your message up each channel. Thing is, people just put the same stuff on all 3, and so then you're just taking advantage of all the channels. So again, where is your market? Is it better just to be on LinkedIn and not touching the other 2, or is it better to be on Facebook and Instagram? Because you've got things like now with Facebook brought out a thing called Creator Studio, which is great because you can do all your posting onto Facebook and Instagram on one online platform and schedule it all up, which you haven't been able to do before. You've always needed like Hootsuite or Buffer and things like that to do it. So now it's become really easy to use their platform, send it off, and then just go copy it over to LinkedIn or something as well. You know, LinkedIn is a great one. I've had this conversation twice this week already. Go and friend request everybody that's a potential target market for you. You know, the GMs of certain businesses or their sales team, or if it's
and something probably really important just with LinkedIn, when you are friend requesting, send a personalized message. And something that I found just this year, when you use your mobile phone with your LinkedIn app, you can actually voice record your message. So you don't have to type it, which the response that I've gotten just from that is massive. People actually respond back that weren't responding previous to that. So check out that cool little thing that you can do on your mobile phone as well. Yep.
I like that one. I'll try that out myself. But if anybody's, you know, I'd say that everybody who'll watch this has a website. And I would question, how often are you actually looking at your Google Analytics? How often are you going into Google, your business side of it, and adding in posts like you can on your rest of your socials? Because ultimately, Google likes Google, and start using their tools, because then they're going to work for you. But some of my clients, I've literally been going in daily to check their analytics, because I'm wanting to see we're changing things, we're tweaking, we're changing campaigns, we're trying to, you know, get the next level, and I'm going to analytics daily. So keep an eye on what's going on there, because it's a really good insight to whether the people are actually connecting with you or not.
It is. Data speaks volumes. Now, I'm very aware of the time. So do you have anything very important that you need to talk or tell us about in the channels area?
No, not really. It's about picking the one you want to stick to. So if it's social media, if it's direct emails, if it's picking up the phone, like, we forget that picking up the phone and word of mouth are the most effective marketing tools available. So, you know, if that is me, then spend the time creating the lists so that you can pick up the phone. You want to be the first one that your customers hear from. Like, create your strategy around whatever the channel is that's going to work for you best. There's like hundreds of channels now. You can't do them all, nor should you try.
Yes, perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, Michelle. Just to kind of wrap all of that up, top 3 kind of tips when you're trying to get your marketing ready to jump the gun: strategy, branding, and channels. If you watch our social media platform, Facebook and LinkedIn and Google Business, I will be putting up a blog probably by the end of April, just on the chat that Michelle and I have had. So if you're not really a visual person and you rather read stuff, all the information and things that we've chatted about in the last half an hour will be available in that blog. And I'll also put that up on our social media so you guys know that it comes out. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending the time, Michelle. We will put your website, which is www.brandit.com. Is that correct?
No, BRANDiT.rocks.
BRANDiT.rocks. I'll put that in the comments as well. So if anyone wants to connect with Michelle, you definitely can, and I would highly recommend it. All right. Bye.
Bye.